The Menopause Mixer is a great way for women to understand and embrace the journey of menopause, understanding our right to be informed about what is happening during this magnificent feminine evolution. Look, learn, and know these 5 rights as we get into tonight's episode of the Menopause Mixer. And then if you haven't already, join us on Facebook in the Black Women in Menopause support group.
Woo, woo, woo. Listen, y'all, I could not wait for that commercial to keep to end. I am excited about tonight's episode of our monthly mixer. So I'm going to give you guys some time to join us. I have Dr. Gail Crowder, the sexologist, that has joined me again this month. We are going to kind of like rehash what happened last month, but we really going to kick it in gear for what we want to pick up with this month, which is about the intimacy. So last month, Dr. Gail, we gave them all the goods on how they can still have sex and popping sex during menopause and beyond, right?
Yes, we did. And it was a fun time. So thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely. So if you guys don't know, I know I've had so many women join the group in the last 30 days. And we did make the group private. Go ahead, hand clap for that. Facebook is so difficult with how they give you a timeline on when you want to make your group go from public to private. And then they ask you, are you sure you want to do it? Because if so, it's this whole rigmarole about making it go from private to public. So anyway, we are now private. I know that there's some women in there that wanted to share some very intimate and personal things, and they were concerned about who could see the comments since the group was public. So I hope that us making it private will give you that opportunity to be transparent, be able to share and feel safe in that group. I'm excited. Every time I go in there, I just see the conversation that's going back and forth, the advice, the support. Women pouring out their hearts saying, listen, I feel like I'm going crazy. This is what's happening. So it warms my heart to know that this group really is providing support for women. And we really hit the nail on the head when we realized that this was something that women needed. And tonight's subject, although it seemed taboo that you don't normally want to talk about sex in the streets, right? But listen, in order for us to understand and know, we have to know that we are not alone in what it is that we're feeling, what it is that we're going through. So Dr. Gail and I, we're going to talk. Gail, tell me okay, can we talk like sisters first, and then we're going to talk clinical doctor stuff?
Absolutely. This is the time for us to let our hair down, be 100% open and honest and transparent, because I was clinically put in menopause at age 38. So yeah, it's been a long time for me. And I wish that I would have had a group like this. But a lot of time, and I didn't even know to search for something like this. And I'm being 100% honest. I did not even know to search for something like this, because in our, in African American day to day, most of the time this is not talked about, right? And at the time when I was clinically put there with a hysterectomy and one of my ovaries moved at one time, and then subsequently losing my other ovary, right? I was talking to my mother, and she was like, well, you just have to deal with that, and all you do is fan yourself and change your night shirt and wear 100% cotton and get you some put some towels on your side of the bed because you're gonna sweat it up, and so you don't stain up your sheets. That's what I got, right?
Absolutely.
And don't you take them hormones and nothing those people trying to give you, because you're gonna end up with this because I heard my girlfriend at work, you know how they do.
Yes.
So I love that you have created a safe place for us to be open and honest, right? And to relearn what maybe some of us did not get growing up.
Yep. And that's the reason for us having this conversation, right? Because Like I said, normally we don't talk about sex in the streets, and we don't, um, share intimate information, or maybe what's going on in your bedroom, or what you're feeling. But listen, in order for us to feel safe, in order for us to not be frustrated, not feel like we're going crazy, we have to have these conversations. And I was sitting here as you were talking, and I don't know if you saw me on screen, but I was doing one of these numbers, because you're absolutely right. I just remember, I know my mom didn't have the conversation with me. That's one thing for sure. But I do remember me joking with her and saying, "Mom, it is freezing in here. Why are you sweating and, fanning yourself?" And then she would just explain to me, I'm going through the change. And that was pretty much the extent of the
And that's
conversation.
what they called it, the change. They would dare call it menopause. I'm sure they knew that, but they would call it the change. And I remember, like you said, I would be talking to my mom, right? And all of a sudden she would just get up and go open the refrigerator or the freezer door, right? And I'm looking like, what are you doing, right? She's like, I'm just having a summer by myself. And, I would be looking at her like, okay. But I understood, because it's been a time, that I would go stand outside in 10-degree weather on my balcony, right? So I could get some relief. Yes. Yeah. So I understand now, but back then they was not having those type of conversations. You just knew something was not right.
Yeah.
And my mom was not one you ask a whole bunch of questions to in the first place.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, Minnow Squad, I'm grateful that we are, having this time together, and that we have a safe space to do it. So, sister to sister, so when you look at where you are now, or back when you were put into menopause at 38, what shifted for you as far as like your intimacy? And then I'll share with you, as I am now postmenopausal, what going through menopause was like, and then where I am now. So kind of share with me what you and Gil, what you felt like you went through in your marriage, or in your sex life, rather, not necessarily your marriage, but your sex
Well,
life.
it was one and the same, because he was affected too, right? He was affected too. Well, I went from having a very, fluid libido, right? Wanting to engage, not all the time, because, and when I say not all the time, because we're women, right? And if he ain't doing or saying and doing all the stuff, that affects sex life on a normal, right? So we went from engaging on a regular basis to a complete halt, right? And then he taught, it started causing problems in our marriage, because he said you turned into a nun. But I didn't know what was going on with my body, right? Because I did not fit the age, right? And they didn't educate me well enough to say, when we remove your ovary and we remove your uterus, this is a great possibility, right? Because I did not fit the age, right? And so when it happened, I was not prepared for it. So, the night sweats came, the fog memory came, the total mood swings came, the low libido dropped. Everything that he said to me was blown out of proportion, whether 4 weeks before then I would have just let it roll. I my mouth became very dry, my vagina, all the stuff that you don't realize, it began to happen, right? And that went on for about 8 years. And I'm being honest, up and down, up and down. I was sweating out of my clothes, all of these things, because what happened was, finally my age met where my body had already been.
Okay.
And then that was a whole different set of problems, right?
A whole different set of experiences with that, with the symptomology catching up with your age.
There you go. Okay. Absolutely. Right. And so through this all, I was dealing with male GYNs. And it was I believe now that I'm, got myself together, was because I was in the military system. My husband was active duty when all of this was going on. And so to when I got around 45ish. I was talking to my mom. I'm like, I just think I'm crazy. I'm not sleeping, all of the things
Mhm.
that go on with menopause. And I said, and then Gil just keeps wanting to engage in sex. I'm like, I'm having sex, but it's not to the point where I enjoy it. I'm just doing it because it's my
Mhm.
wifely duties, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just being open and honest with you. And so my mom was like, "Well, have you tried a woman GYN?" And you would think that that would have been the normal course of action, but it just never dawned on me because from the time that I left home at 21 and got married, that's all that I engaged with, having
Right.
my exams and all those kind of things. And so when I went to a woman GYN, Dr. Sinesi, thank you, Jesus, she
Mhm.
literally changed my life
Yep.
because she was an African American woman. She understood the plight of an African American, woman, and then she also explained to me what
Yes.
was going on with my body
What you were
and
feeling.
how I did not have to suffer any longer.
Mhm. That is so important. Oh my gosh, that is so important. And I think there's a lot of women who, um, everything that you just described, if you look in the group, that's like the conversation of them feeling like they're going crazy. I don't feel, I don't want to suffer through this. What is it that I can do? Delana or somebody in this group, help me. And the first thing I tell them is that number one, you're not going crazy. Number
Mhm.
two, really sit with your what you're experiencing, right?
Yep.
Make what you're going through personal for you, and
Hmm.
that requires you to hone in on what's happening, right? So I tell people, track your symptoms. That changed my life. When I was
Yep.
able to track my symptoms, I was able to shift what it was I was experiencing, because before I was just like, again, this is a set of, what's supposed to happen. I'm supposed to, kind of have hot flashes. I'm supposed to, go through the whole decreased libido. Like, you're just reading through the whole litany of things that's supposed to happen. But when I began to track my symptoms, I realized there were certain things that I was doing that was intensifying those symptoms. Whereas
Yep.
if I had changed my approach to them, it would minimize them. So
Yep.
it made the whole experience enjoyable. And that's the way that we have to look at it. So not only do we have to make it enjoyable for us, but also so that we're not scaring the hell out of our children, right? Our daughters, who we don't want them to think that going into menopause is an awful, god awful, I don't need to experience it, part of life. We want them to feel like when they get to menopause, embrace it
And
and,
empowered.
feel empowered. That's
Yes.
the way that I want us to change the language around it and our approach to it. Yes, there's a lot that goes on, with it. And I'm not saying that it's, again, with the drop in estrogen, it's just the way the body physiologically responds to it. But there's things that we can do. Let's think about it. The same thing when we were getting our period, right?
Yep.
Our bodies went through things because there was an increase in estrogen. We went through the menstrual cycle. It was, every 28 to 31 days, the ovulation, that whole thing with the cramping. If you were
Cramping, bloating, irritability,
sad,
yeah, all of those things. Yeah, tender breasts, all of those
all
things.
of those things,
Yeah,
right? With
but you know what was funny, and just talking about embracing it and preparing for it, is
it.
that my mom prepared me for my cycle.
Yeah, that's the point. Okay, now go ahead. That's the point I'm making. Go ahead.
She prepared me for my cycle.
Mhm,
She was like, Gail, when you as you grow around 13 to 14, this is what's going to happen. She even showed me how to, place the pad, how to dispose of it because you don't want to be leaving it all open.
mhm.
She went through the whole thing. She made me a little kit for my backpack.
Yep.
She took me through that. But when it came to menopause, when she was actively in it,
Mhm.
she never had the conversation,
Right. There
right?
was no conversation around it, right?
No.
I say this, we had the conversation about the birds and the bees.
Yep.
We have the conversation about sex. We have
Yep.
conversation about the period, but we don't have conversation about the perimenopause. No, I'm
Nope.
sorry. I said we have conversation about sex, having the period, pregnancy, but not perimenopause.
Do not.
Do not. So we have got to, this generation, we are empowering ourselves so that we can have that conversation. And I mean, have it in such a way that, again,
It's normal, just like it was normal to tell your girls, they told us about cycles and, like you said, the birds and the bees, you do this is what's going to happen. And my mother was very clear, that's going to be your baby, those kind of things, right? But when it came to menopause, I was lost. And I never was able to or felt comfortable having the conversation with my mom until I was telling her I feel like I'm crazy, just. And then she said, Gail, have you ever thought about a female GYN, right? If she would have probably said that at 38, I probably wouldn't have suffered so long, right?
It likely would have changed the trajectory of your experience in it early on.
Just making that switch was good for me. And I know most people would think, well, why wouldn't you know to have a woman GYN? It's just like if you're in a system and you don't know no better, you can't do no better, right?
So true. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share something on the screen with the viewers, and I'm checking to see if anybody has any questions in the live chat, but I'm going to share something. And this is a couple of different things that happens to us. And I'm going to just talk about 4 of them. And then we're going to go right into like what the intimacy part is, right? So that what we just experienced, ladies, was the sister chat. That's us kind of just really giving you what our experience around menopause looked like. And then I want us to really kind of just go a little bit deeper as far as like the intimacy part. But here's what happens as you're going into menopause and the decline in estrogen. Your libido declines. You have difficulty getting aroused. There's painful intercourse. And then it's virtually impossible to climax. Those are the top 4 things that most women either experience or express. I won't say complain about. I'm going to say that they express, because remember, we're changing our language. So this is what most people experience. Again, libido declines, difficulty getting aroused, painful intercourse, and then they feel like it's impossible to climax. So all of that impacts your intimacy, right? Number 1, for me, I noticed, and I was just talking to my husband about this just recently. I said, again, y'all know I'm gonna be very transparent. I said to him, I said, baby, we used to get it on like rabbits. We used to hump like rabbits. I said, now it's almost as if we don't make a conscious decision to almost schedule it out, right? It can almost, now we cuddle. And so that's always been a thing. And for him, it's like, that's like number 1. So we do that. So that's intimacy to me. That
is intimacy, and that is the glue that keeps you together, whether you can have penetration sex or not.
Right. And
so
that's
important.
That's where I want you to go. So we do that, and it's almost as if there's been this shift where the cuddling at night kind of takes the place of the penetration. So for us, it's the cuddling that now supersedes that hip bumping, penetration 80% of the time. And then 20%. So that's what it used to be. It used to be 80% of the time it was penetration, hip bumping, we doing this in various positions and all of that. And then 20% the intimacy. Now it has flipped. It is now 80% the intimacy, the cuddling, the massaging, all of that. He gave me an amazing massage last week, and I was like, and then we went to sleep. There was before, if he had did that, like we all aroused and like we're over here humping all over the house. Now it's like he gave me that massage and I just went right on.
Enjoyed it. And that those are the important things for women who are in menopause. And let me just tell you, women, men go through a male menopause as well. They experience a hormone drop and a hormone shift just like we do, between pretty much the same ages that we do. The only difference is they experience it in a different way. They don't get the night sweats and so those kind of things. They do get the mood swings, but they also have a hard time staying erect or staying erect as long or getting as hard as they used to be.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we think as women, and I know I just want to say this so you don't think that you're the only one that's going to experience this. If you are in a committed relationship, your husband will experience it as well. He's not going to talk about it. He's probably going to pull away when you're ready to engage. He might be like, nah, nah, nah. And you thinking in our minds, because we've been taught that he's getting this from somewhere. He ain't getting it from me.
Oh,
no, he's in menopause, just like, and it doesn't last as long as ours do, but it is a spike and it is a drop. And if he's in that drop, right, and he does not come back up, he really needs to go get his hormones checked as well. I just want to say that because we're now on our journeys by ourselves.
Yep. That is perfect, because that was going to be my next question, to not really question, but like for us to segue into that in the same thing, because for him, again, and that's why communication is so important, right?
It is.
So I had to say to him, listen, at nighttime, when I was going through my periods of the hot flashes and the night sweats, I would say to him, I want you to feel. So I want you to think that feel this. He would feel the clammy. So he's like, oh, okay. So you're bringing him into it. So it's not like I'm saying to him, oh, I'm having a hot flash and then I'm just laying over here suffering. Nope. I would tell him, look, I want you to put your hand right here. I want you to feel how clammy it is. So what can I do to make this experience better for you?
Better.
What can we do? Okay, so you need to have the fan on your side. Okay, so you need to make sure that when you go to bed, you got water. Like, what can we do so that you're not suffering through this alone? And then I'm not over here thinking you don't want anything.
She's just pushing me away. And see, that was what Gail, because I would be laying there and all of a sudden I'll swing the covers off and he looking like, what's going on with you? Right. So I didn't have the conversation in the bed. I had the conversation outside of the bed. And I was like, listen, honey, I'm not trying to drive you nuts when you like trying to hug on me, because Gail has a real high body heat just on a regular day. And boy, you know, when you hot flashing in that heat, whoo, you feel like you in a sauna. Okay. And so, you know, I'm like, can you just back off?
Yep.
And so what I told him, I was like, when I ask you to back up off of me, it's not that I don't want you to hug me or whatever. I enjoy that. But I am in the middle of menopause. And I said, with my own body temperature going up to, I don't know, look like I'm going to be a bird in the oven. And then I said, it's just too much. And he said, so that's why you flinging it. I said, that's why I'm flinging it. So what my husband did is he bought me a fan with a remote so I can click, 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 click.
Come on, Gail. Yeah.
I said, thank you, guys. And he bought it and he put a little sign on the menopause fan. And so I was like, y'all don't touch my fan because it does have a remote. And so like you know, I do keep water beside my bed, right? And all of those kind of things. And he understands if we're cuddling and all of a sudden it happens, then if I say, Gil, I'm having a moment, he'll say, okay, instead of me pushing him away, right? He just automatically, and then I'm like, I'm good now, right? So it's just learning, and like I believe a communication you can get through absolutely anything.
Absolutely.
Right? You can get through anything.
Hot flash, bringing him into it. So when I was experiencing, I would take his hand and I would say, okay, now feel this. And then I would put his hand, I said, see the difference? You know, I was showing him that's
a good technique. That's good.
So that he could see, because remember, he's not feeling that whole internal furnace going on. He's over there feeling comfortable and chill. So I would take his hand and I would say, see the difference. And then he could then understand. So in the moment, I was just really kind of bringing him into my world. And like you say, have the conversation outside of the episode, right? Outside of the bed. So that when it happened, instead of him feeling like, oh, well, you pushing me off, or getting defensive, instead, he switched it to how can I make that experience more comfortable? Right? Rather than what you going on, what you pushing me off for? Because his love language is touch, and he likes to just cuddle.
My husband's love language is physical touch to the 10th power and acts of service, right? And so when you're in that moment, like I said, communication is the key, and it will literally change how they see you and view you, right? And they won't feel like you're pushing them away because they're getting on your nerves. They will understand when you say, I'm having my moment, right?
Yep, that's an automatic to them. They should then automatically know what that means and then know what you're experiencing because you've already kind of had that conversation and
Yes.
brought them, into it. Although physiologically he couldn't feel the
He
heat.
can't do anything, but he can understand, right? He can
Yep.
understand,
He
right? And
can.
have empathy towards you.
So
Yeah.
switching back to the intimacy part, now that we've kind of
Okay.
gotten them, so what used to work intimacy, is to get me aroused, the intimacy had to be changed a little bit, right? So it used to be again me looking at him, look certain colognes he would wear, like like it was just
Absolutely.
little small things, I could
A
see him.
fresh haircut used
Fresh
to
hair,
do it for me.
girl, oh my God, Mr. Mason, a fresh haircut. He coming in lined up. I'm ready
Girl
to put him
lined up. Like
in.
I'm like, woo, that's sexy. I mean, people like a fresh haircut, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, that
that
was,
is like that kind of stuff.
nice, all fresh. Yeah.
Yeah,
And he still looks handsome, but that used to be my thing.
that used to be
But
my thing.
when it comes to how do you make the shift, right?
Mhm,
Every woman's different and every woman's experience is different. But I will say this, right? The first thing I do want you to do is have the conversation about where you are,
mhm,
right? And even if you still are having a cycle, but you have any of these symptoms that are leading to menopause, begin to prepare yourself, right,
right,
to embrace it, right, and to talk about it and to seek knowledge. But also, if you have a partner in your life, begin to prepare them too, so they
mhm,
can be on this journey with you,
yep,
right? So have the conversation. The
mhm,
second thing I want you to do is, because again, a lot of times our libidos go down,
right,
right? Is
mhm,
for you to really go see your GYN and really understand where your hormone levels are. You
right,
no longer have to suffer.
yeah, absolutely,
So if you need to go on some type of hormone replacement, whether it's natural, whether it's a shot, whether it's a pellet, I'm sure Delana has given you guys a lot of options. So I won't go through all of those options, but do something. Don't do nothing, right?
oh
Don't suffer like I did. Do something to bring your body back into balance as much as possible.
right,
Okay.
absolutely,
The next thing is, I really want you to schedule sex if you're in a committed relationship. Schedule it just like we schedule our hair, our nails, and all the other stuff we schedule, like y'all schedule to be on here. Schedule sex
mhm,
because it's good for the body,
right,
regardless if you're in menopause, regardless of whatever. It is good for the body. It helps you
mhm,
release stress, sleep better. You name it, it is
yep,
good for the body.
mhm,
Okay. So that's the next
that
thing.
is,
And
yeah,
then I want you not to focus if you're having painful sex, right? The other thing, if you're having painful sex, I want you to buy yourself a quality lube. And
mhm,
what do I mean by a quality lube? A lot of people like KY jelly. I just no shade to them. But that is not always a quality lube. Can you get it? Yes, but there's some quality lubes out on the market. Good Clean Loving is really good. You can buy from Amazon, and it's a quality lube. I love, just like me, by Pure Romance. It is a water-based lube, and it absolutely, you can put it on. You can put it on 6 hours, and when you get engaged, your body lubes it up just like your
yeah,
natural body. So that's
mhm.
an amazing one. So those two are my top favorite. Uh,
Which is
but buy
good
yourself a
because you
quality
can.
lube, huh?
Right, which is good because some women feel like this whole preparation has to take place before sex, but if you use a quality lube and you put it on
Mhm.
before, long before, it's not like you've gotta, "Okay, wait a minute, hold on, let
Hold
me go."
on, yeah.
Yeah, it won't interfere with the intimacy.
It will not, and your body will react to your body just like it's normal, like you used to be in
Yeah,
your 20s, and
mhm,
your body will automatically whatever. And that's the reason why I say right now, since your libido is low, schedule sex so you'll know.
mm,
Okay, I'm gonna be engaging with Mister. So let me put this on so I can be ready, right? So and get schedule sex and buy yourself a really good quality lube. It will do you wonders.
mhm,
Trust and believe me. The other thing I like to tell women is, invest in a really good position pillow. For the simple fact is that the lining of the vagina gets very thin, and that's what's causing sometimes the discomfort. So if you buy yourself a position pillow, it helps position the pelvic in different areas, and it also helps you relax, especially if you have a weak pelvic floor. It'll help you relax for penetration, right? So, and then it also can help you hold different sex positions. And that's my next. If you are having problems in sex positions, because it will make it less painful. And it's so important for you to try and find one that makes insertion not painful and makes intercourse not painful, because sex is supposed to be pleasurable, not painful. Okay.
Right.
All right.
And
So a good lube
right here at this point that, you know, we tend to, again, want to not have sex because it's painful, but believe it or not, the more you work your vaginal muscle, because it is a muscle, the more lubricated it will, and it stretches that out, because during menopause, it becomes, like Gail said, thin, and that's why it becomes painful. So because it's painful, we avoid the sex. But believe it or not, if you do these things, and if you engage in sex more often, it will help your vaginal wall from getting stretching. So,
And then also, I want you to engage in foreplay, right? Well, we don't have time. We tired or whatever. Foreplay is like it is the fore before the play, right? And especially because our bodies are more like ovens and theirs are more like microwaves, you got to try to meet somewhere in the middle. So slow them down.
I like that.
You got to slow them down. Okay. So foreplay is huge, right? And foreplay starts way before you get in the bed. It's that I can't wait till you get home. What's going to happen? You look good today. Go get that fresh haircut. Put on that, whatever that looks like for you guys, engage in foreplay. Okay. And I also want to say this, and I'm sure we're going to get some things. If sex is so painful for you, quit focusing so much on penetration sex. You can do central massages, which causes amazing intimacy, because intimacy is what keeps you together in the first place, is not the sex. Okay. Because I know some couples that cannot engage in penetration sex, but they are bonded together more than people who are, like Jelena said, are jackrabbits. Okay. So so stop just focusing on penetration sex. Is it good? Absolutely. But you can introduce a lot of central massages. You can do oral sex. You could do all kind of different, you can introduce sex games. You can do so many different things in your bedroom, right? It's all about preparation and having meaningful conversations outside of the bedroom, and allowing yourself to come together and understand what each other's needs are at this point in time as we progress in life.
Absolutely. And that is so key. Everything that you just shared, I mean, was amazing. And it is what we've been able to employ. And I think, again, the biggest thing is starting with that conversation, right? So once I realized what was happening, I had to just, you know, kind of sit down and start to have that conversation with my husband so that he could understand what was going on, not only because of the physical part, but also the emotional and psychological part that was happening with the brain fog and with the mood swings, and, you know, me becoming more interested in one thing versus the other. So it was really just important for me to have that conversation, because otherwise I didn't want him to think that, you know, I was becoming something or was, you know, kind of changing, or, you know, the same thing like you said. He might be like, well, is she having an affair? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. She used to be giving it up, and now she did. Well, I told you, guilt term, you done turned into a nun. I was like, what, really?
So I had that, had to have that conversation, and even different things that you talk about, the scheduling sex and positions, you know, varying positions and things of that nature, where it wasn't so painful, and or so it was more enjoyable, and it was just our opportunity to explore. My husband and I are so funny. I'm married to a Gemini, so for him, you know, one thing one day is good, and then the next day, I didn't like that. Tommy liked that, but Thomas didn't like that. So for us, sometimes it's a game to play on what it is that we can do to make what was last week's sex better for this week. Like you used to like it on this side, but now you like it on that side. You used to like it.
And that's the reason why having conversations and introducing different sex games, trying new sex positions, all of those things are good. And then let me answer the question for a lot of people. Are sex toys bad? Okay, I'm gonna answer that question. The answer is no. The answer is no. If you have a conversation outside of the bedroom, first of all, why you want to engage with a sex toy, right? And what the purpose is, and reassuring your partner that it's not replacing them, right?
Yes.
And it could be that a lot of times women, like I said, we're like ovens, they're like microwaves. We need to meet somewhere in the middle. And so for us to get stimulated and for our bodies to kick in, a sex toy is good. But you need to understand what is the purpose of the sex toy, right? Because so many people go to these parties, and just to let you guys know, I used to teach and educate the consultants at these big party things, right? On the good, the bad, and the ugly, teach them how to introduce them, understand if they're silicone, what it could do, all of those different kind of things. I did that for a long time, and I actually helped some of these companies invent sex toys, because if you have a husband that is having some form of erectile dysfunction, they can aid to help him to be stimulated and stay erect too. So all sex toys are not bad, right? If you don't know the purpose and you don't have the conversation.
Right.
Okay.
Again, goes back to having the conversation. You being able to, again, because they're not experiencing it, they're not going through what you're going through. That communication is so key.
Yeah.
Having that, and not, to me, it's outside of the bed. And you mentioned this before, having the conversation and talking about it outside of the bedroom, and then bringing whatever it is that you all discuss and talk about into the bedroom. To me, it just makes it so much more natural when you do that, because then he understands. All right, we have one question in the group. It says, I know you're talking about sex with menopause. Please tell me what I can do about the pain in my head. So, and it doesn't show me who says this, because it's the it's in the group, so sometimes it doesn't show the name.
She said the pain in her head.
Pain in her head. So she said she knows we're talking about sex tonight. So with the pain in your head, again, migraines and having headaches are one of the symptomologies related to menopause. And I don't know if you were on earlier when I shared about making sure you track your symptoms. So the pain in your head, does it occur at a specific time? What's happening before you have the pain? How long is it lasting? Is it specific times of the day? Because what can be tied to that pain in your head may be what you're eating, maybe a certain medication that you're on, that now that you may have been on prior to going into menopause, but now that you're in menopause, your body is going to receive that medication differently. So a lot of those things that we're not thinking about at the time that we're going through menopause.
And also, what time of the month are you having these headaches? Because that's another thing. And also, what does your water intake look like? Because when you're in menopause, if you're not drinking enough water, and I was totally guilty of it, right? It can cause a lot of other things that you don't even realize because you're dehydrated.
Yep. So simple things like that, like really just looking at what it is that you do, track your symptoms. I know it may seem like a pain in the behind, but even if you do it on your phone, just start a note section on your phone in the little notepad.
You need to come up with a menopause tracker.
Yeah. You know what I actually do? I have to, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put it in the group for them to download it. And then you just basically write out what the symptom is, the time. I think it has symptomology, time, what you were doing before it occurred. And it helps you to kind of almost pinpoint what it is that may be triggering the symptoms that you're experiencing. That also helps when you go to your GYN, so that then you can better explain to them. Because think about it. Okay, so if you're going to your GYN, let's say we're in April and your GYN appointment isn't until July, August. You're not going to remember what happened in April. You'll say, I think maybe 2-3 times in April I had this, and then I think my, hot flashes increased. I think you have to be very specific so that they can determine what it is that you need to, help to minimize your symptomology that you're experiencing, right? Because it all goes back to us wanting to make this an enjoyable experience, and they won't be able to prescribe and or recommend the things that could help you through this if you're only guessing at what you're experiencing. So really take the time to identify your symptomology. But yeah, so I hope that helped whoever put that question in the group. So let me just check real quick in the chat and see if there's any other questions. Dr. Gail, as we wrap up, I want to put your website on, and then I also want you to share, you have a challenge coming up. So before I share about my challenge, and it's so funny, y'all, we did not plan this, but Gail has a challenge that starts, and I want her to share about it. So you guys are going to get a double dose if you choose to participate in this. Again, you get out what you put into it. So you can't just have information and don't act on it. Don't do the necessary work that it requires for us to shift and change how we experience this amazing time in our life. So Dr. Gail, share with our audience what it is that you have coming up.
On May the 1st, from May the 1st through May the 7th, I have a intimacy challenge, a 7-day intimacy challenge. And every single day you get a downloadable, and actually you get an hour coaching with me every single day for 7 days in a private group, right? And I'm doing this because I want people not that sex is not good, right? I'm a sexologist, good, right? But I want you to really understand and how to build intimacy, true intimacy that lasts beyond sex, lasts beyond any injuries, lasts beyond anything. So I'm going to be focusing in on sex. So it's called the 7-day intimacy challenge. It starts May the 1st through May the 7th. You get coaching every single week with me, and I only want a group of 20 women. And I know that sounds crazy, but I want us to be so intimate, right? Where we can ask questions, you can get me or whatever. And again, I already have 5 women, I believe, registered, and I haven't really been posting it. So if you want to join my intimacy challenge, if you just go to gailcrowder.com, just my name, and join the challenge, I would absolutely love to have you.
That sounds like again, you get out to have the coaching as part of it. And I'm sure during the coaching, there'll be some opportunity for Q&A, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It will, because they'll get their homework during the day, and we come on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at night, and we go in.
Okay. So that's perfect. Go to gailcrowder.com, sign up for her newsletter, follow her. She has a wives chat. When is your wives chat?
My wives chat is every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's on here on Facebook, and I also stream it to my YouTube channel.
Okay, so you guys don't want to miss that as well. So sign up and then follow along and see what else you can do beyond what we've talked about tonight. We really, again, only, I think, scratch the surface and the tip of the iceberg. I feel like, I'm not going to say it, but I feel like there's a part 3 and 4 coming on. Like, this needs to, outside of everything else, again, because of the nature of the conversation, we need to definitely continuously revisit this in some ways. So you and I will talk about what that looks like and how we can, kind of continue the conversation a little bit more for women, whether it's through us, doing the monthly mixer, or just coming on and having a conversation live in the group. So we'll figure out what that looks like, because I know that women need this just based on what I see being posted in the group. And even if they don't right now realize they need it, as they're going through menopause, they're going to realize that they need it. So just on the heels of Dr. Gail sharing her 7-day intimacy, I want you guys to understand the importance of your hormones. So we're together, and I promise you, we did not know this. It was when we logged on and we were back in the green room waiting to go live. We both were talking about the challenges. So starting May 1st. So May is going to be Menopause May, and we're really going to just kind of touch the surface on a lot of different things. And hormones is, I believe, one of the major things that we definitely need to talk about. So for 10 days, we're going to do a hormone reset challenge. And it's going to basically help you to identify the 6 major hormones that play. I know we talk about estrogen a lot, but there's truly more hormones involved in this time that we're transitioning. And I want you all to understand the role that they play and how various things that we're doing or not doing can impact that, again, because this all goes to your experience with menopause. So the 10-day hormone reset challenge begins May 1st. The 7-day intimacy challenge begins May 1st. And for that, you basically can, prior to the prep, take the hormone quiz on my website, DelanaWatkins.com, and you scroll down and you just click, take the hormone quiz, and that will kind of give you some idea of where you are. And then I'll reach back out to you and we can have a conversation and also share with you other ways where you can kind of get more specific as far as your hormones are concerned. So again, take the hormone quiz, May 1st, hormone reset, intimacy challenge, GailCrowder.com, DelanaWatkins.com. Ladies, there is no reason why with all these resources that we have that we're going to change how we experience it. We're going to change how our daughters and granddaughters experience it, because why? We're going to have the conversation and we're going to feel good about what it is that we're going through and not say to them, this is a curse. This is awful. You mean to tell me I waited all the way up to 40, 50 years to feel like, crap? No, we don't want them to be scared of, going into this period of their life. We want them to feel like, I look forward to going through, this, I call it the feminine evolution, right? This
because
is
and they will be equipped, right? That's what we want to do, equipped. And even if you're in it and you don't feel equipped, if you continue in this group, I can promise you, Delana and her team are going to make sure that you are 100% equipped.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And the other chat that we had on here, she came back in and put a comment and said her head pain is every morning and she feels sick every day.
Wow.
I would be safe to say that, again, track, now that you know that it's every morning, I want you to track what you're doing during your wind down window before you go to bed. That last hour to 2 hours prior to sleep is very important. So I want you to track what you're eating, what you're doing, the amount of water that you're drinking, and what's occurring during that period before you go to bed, because whatever's happening is either occurring during your sleeping period, your rest period, or prior to when you going into your restful sleep. Okay, so I want you to track that and see if there's anything specific that kind of jumps out to you. And
hopefully she does not have like a sleeping disorder, like sleep apnea or something, where she's not going into REM sleep. Exactly. And that's the reason why she might be waking up with a headache too.
Exactly. Yep. I was just going to say, see what I said, girl? I was just getting ready to say you could be asleep for 6 hours, but not necessarily be resting, because you don't get to what's called REM sleep, or the rapid eye movement. And that's where you get into the dreamy state of sleep. And if you never reach that, that may be likely why you're waking up with a headache, and maybe why you also feel sick during the day, because your body goes into restorative mode when we reach that REM sleep. So again, Dr. Gail Crowder, sexologist, amazing. Part 2, always the sisterhood talk, the sexologist talk, the clinical talk. We break it down again, and I want us to, again, feel comfortable sharing in this group. It has been amazing. I love the interaction. Hope, ladies, that you didn't watch us live, that you watched the replay. If you have questions, just hashtag replay, and then it'll send me a message that you not only watched it, but if you have a question that maybe wasn't answered on here that you want us to address. So please make sure that you comment. Okay, wait a minute. We got one more question. Can stress...
And can I just say this, y'all? We real transparent. Yeah, I know y'all probably said, why is she sitting in the dark? Let me just tell you, when I came on here, the light bulb popped. So that's why I look dark. I gotta get my husband to change it.
You want to change it, right?
I didn't want to say, Delana, the light just went off. So don't think I'm crazy. I just have a light on my desk, but the real big light is gone. It's out.
This topic was so hot, I didn't even notice you were in the dark. So can one more question real quick. Can stress make menopause worse?
Absolutely.
Yes. And that, honestly, I'm glad you said that, because believe it or not, stress is one of the major things that does make your menopause experience that much more intense. is the stress level, because it's stress that can be related to you not realizing what's going on. So that creates a level of stress outside of just your everyday stress that you could be experiencing. The stress of going into menopause and not knowing what's happening also intensifies your menopausal symptoms. So yes, to answer your question, stress absolutely plays a major role in how you experience your menopause symptomology, for sure. Yep, that's a great question. So I wanted to address that. All right, Dr. Gail, appreciate you. And ladies, just stay tuned.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And just stay tuned, because I'm sure you're going to be back. We'll figure out what that looks like. I know we're having Menopause May, so we may actually do more lives in the group than just our one-time menopause mixer, because I want us to really, as I look in the group, there are so many women that are in this group that are just like, help, 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 help. And so I'm trying to not only help them in real time, but make sure that what we talk about is what they need to hear and
Okay.
understand and embrace. Okay. So I appreciate you, and I will talk with you soon, and we'll have you back on the.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.